We haven't learned how to deploy one of these yet, have we? If you tried to do GitHub Pages, you probably saw it didn't work. It just showed you your README. That's because if you look at your repo, there's no index.html here, is there? There's one inside public, but that doesn't help us a whole lot, especially since all this JavaScript is not really JavaScript yet. It's JSX. So we've been using our dev server, which makes it all work locally, but that doesn't make it work on GitHub Pages or somewhere else. So if you look at the list of scripts that are included with Create React App in package.json, one of them is build. And what build does is creates a directory called build, I think, that actually contains the compiled source with index.html at the root. So that's the thing you actually want to host remotely. Now that's a pain in the neck to run build, copy just that folder into some repo somewhere. So there is an easier way. There's even an easier way with GitHub. GitHub Pages is not the best host for React. You can totally do it. But once you get into React Router, it creates some new wrinkles. You may recall that Firebase has a hosting service as well. That's one of the things listed here. So how about that? How about we use it? I've mentioned before that Create React App has a very good user guide with all kinds of tips. Let's look here. Okay, here's the actual user guide. And near the bottom, we see deployment. There's a whole huge section on deployment and how to deploy using different hosts, including GitHub Pages and, yes, Firebase. So it tells you in general what this does, that it creates a build directory with the production build of your app, etc. But then we also see specifically what to do for Azure, for Firebase, for other things. So let's look at these Firebase rules. Here's the link. You cuss. Here's the link straight to the Firebase instructions. Install the Firebase command line interface if you haven't already by running npm install -g Firebase tools. That installs it globally so you can run it from anywhere. So do that. npm install -g Firebase tools. For once, we'll actually do what it says and use npm. Depending on your configuration, that may work better than yarn add global. Then we'll run Firebase login and log in with your previously created Firebase account. Cool. So you can run Firebase login. I'm already logged in, so nothing to do. Then we'll run Firebase init, and we'll need to choose some options. We'll need to agree with the rules being created. No, we won't, because we're not creating the database. We've already got one. And this is the one like super not default answer. Choose build as the public directory, not what it suggests, because it suggests something else. So let's run inside, not API party. I'll do this inside whatever the thing's called, chattering. Run Firebase init. Okay, which Firebase CLI features do you want to set up for this folder? Press space to select features, then enter to confirm. I want hosting. Arrow down, hit space, hosting. Select a default Firebase project for this directory. I want chattering S2 morning. Enter. What do you want to use as your public directory? And if you look there, the little tiny gray letters, public is the default. That's not what we want. We want build. So type build. Configure as a single page app, that is rewrite all URLs to index.html. Yes. Once we're using React Router, you have to do this. Because index.html is the only actual HTML file. When we go to /rooms/Fortnite, there's not a rooms directory with a Fortnite directory in it with an index.html in there, right? So what we want it to do is actually, no matter what URL we type in, it's going to change it to index.html and load our one true HTML file. Then JavaScript is going to figure out our routes. So Okay, that's done. Cool. What's the README say next? Okay, so this sounds important. You need to set up proper HTTP caching headers for serviceworker.js file in firebase.json, or you will not be able to see changes after first deployment. Okay, add it inside hosting key like next. Okay, let's see about this. There's a firebase.json now. Sure is. And there's a hosting key. And it says we need to put this in here. So I'll put a comma. I'll paste in this thing. Header, source, service worker, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. We did that it says to do. Now, after you create a production build with npm run build, you can deploy it by running Firebase Deploy. So we don't use npm run build. We just say yarn build. Yarn build. And what that's going to do is actually create that build directory that when it's finished, we'll have our index.html and all of our real JavaScript. There we go. Index.html, all our real JavaScript is there. In a single file, just main.js. It puts it all in there. So now I can run, supposedly, Firebase Deploy. Okay, hosting URL right here. I don't see anything. Nah. So we don't have a default route anymore, do we? In app.js, we have to go to /signin or /room name in order to see anything. We need a default route. So our default route should check whether we're signed in. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Check whether we're signed in. This.signed in. If we are, redirect to /rooms/general. If we're not signed in, redirect to /sign in. So now if I go to /any old nonsense, it'll redirect me to /room/generals if I'm signed in, to sign in if I'm not. Good, so that's done. So now we have to rebuild and redeploy, which is a little bit of a pain in the neck because it's 2 steps. So in package.json, we have scripts down here. We have build. We could add one called deploy that runs, don't forget your comma, that runs Firebase Deploy. And here's a little magic thing. If you add one called pre-deploy, it'll automatically run that before it runs deploy. So we could put yarn build in there, and it'll run our build step first. Or you could do npm run build if you don't want to absolutely require yarn for people. Let's see what that does then. So now I can type yarn deploy, and it automatically runs yarn build. Creating an optimized production build. There we go. One other thing we should probably do while we're in here. Add a home page to your package.json. And actually paste in the URL of your Firebase hosted version. Still not seeing anything. New content is available. Please refresh. There we go. Now it works. Does it work if I sign in? Heck yes, it does. Does it work if I change rooms? Yep. If I refresh the page in a different room, goes straight to that room. Totally works on Firebase. So, of course, now that you have this, you should probably also go to your chattering repo, hit edit, and paste that Firebase URL into your website field. Right? Cool. Configure for Firebase hosting. Don't forget to do that. Makes it a lot easier. Makes it possible for anyone else to see your stuff, right? So don't forget to do that. So if people are perusing your GitHub, like potential employers or whatever, they'll actually see the thing working. All right. See ya. Thanks for reminding me.